Hello and welcome back to F1 Challenge VB. My name is Mephisto and our epic journey through the history of Formula 1 continues today with the second round of the 1963 season, the Belgian Grand Prix. It was held on the 9th of June, it had 24 entries, 20 of them took part in the race with 12 of them having to retire. The race consists of 32 laps completed in 2 hours, 27 minutes and 47 seconds. Graham Hill started the race from pole with Gurney in 2nd, Meurice 3rd, Max 4th, McLaren 5th and Brabham was 6th on the grid. After a phenomenal race, Jim Clark took the win at the Belgian Grand Prix from McLaren, who finished 4 minutes and 54 seconds after Clark. Gurney ended the race in 3rd, he was 1 lap down. Gunther crossed the line in 4th, he was also 1 lap down. Joe Bonnier finished the race in 5th, he was 2 laps down, and rounding off the top 6 was De Beaufort, who was also 2 laps down. The fastest lap of the race was posted by Jim Clark, it was a 3 minute 58.1 second lap. Welcome to the picturesque Spa-Francorchamps circuit, where a lap starts off with a short sprint down the hill, then up through Eau Rouge, a very tricky corner that needs maximum concentration. From here we move on to Le Combe, a medium speed left-hander with a bit of a camber to it. Eventually we make our way through Malmedy, a very difficult and dangerous left-right chicane. The danger coming from the fact that the second half of the chicane is completely blind. From here we move on to the longest straight of the track, the Masta Straight, which leads into the Masta Kink, a very fast left-right chicane. Next is Tavolo, a long right-hander that tightens towards the exit. A little while later we come through Blanchimont, a fast left-hander. Be careful not to go too wide though. Finally we come through La Source, a tight right-hand hairpin. Brake just before the billboards and ease the throttle in as you come out of the corner. But that brings us around onto the main straight, and that is a lap around the beautiful Spa-Francorchamps circuit. And here we are in qualifying for the Belgian Grand Prix, coming through Malmedy, where I kind of go a bit wide, touch the outside there. Outside of the track, the car starts spinning like a top. I tried to control it, not very successfully. I ended up on the track. I tried to get back on the railroad track. I tried to get back onto the circuit, but I accidentally killed the engine, and that's pretty much the end of qualifying for Andy. As we now take a look at the previous Belgian Grand Prix winners, we haven't won a Grand Prix here in quite a while, so hopefully things will change here today. As we take a look at the grid walk, we have Surtees on pole, Jim Clark is 3rd, Graham Hill 4th, Jim Hall is 5th, 6th is Phil Hill, followed by Lorenzo Bandini in 7th, 8th is Jack Brabham, then we have Joe Siffert in 9th and Joe Bonnier in 10th, Tony Maggs 11th, Bruce McLaren 12th, Dan Gurney 13th, 14th is Chris Amon. In 15th we have Innes Ireland, followed by Ludovico Scarfiotti in 16th, 17th is Karel Godin de Beaufort, in 18th we have Gerhard Mitter, Hap Sharp is 19th, 20th is Trintignant, 21st is Baghetti, Maston Gregory 22nd, Tony September is 23rd, and at the very back of the grid we have Andy Higgs in 24th. So that is the grid lineup for this year's Belgian Grand Prix. Hopefully a good race, especially after that horrible Monaco Grand Prix last time. And we are off in a very slow start on my end. I kind of released the clutch a little bit too early, and that bogged me down. However, I managed to keep the engine running, and we are off and chasing after Maston Gregory as we come up through Eau Rouge, and people starting to slow down. I quite unexpectedly, really, I crashed into one of the Ferraris, I believe, or the ATSs, I'm not quite sure, but thankfully we're both okay and we are good to continue the race. We are now up in 15th, we were in 14th for a very brief moment, but hey, at least we are on the way. And here is a replay of the start as we come down the hill, then up through Eau Rouge. Again, a bad start on my end. I released the clutch a little bit too early, or rather a little bit too quickly, and I did before it actually managed to bite, and there I am crashing into, I believe that's actually one of the ATS cars. So that is that, as I'm right chasing after Joe Siffert when I'm overtaken. A little bit later on I managed to squeeze past Joe Siffert coming through Lecombe here, and we are up in 15th as Tony Mags takes 14th away very, very quickly. Later on lap 2, we see a bunch of cars crashing into each other, narrowly avoid ending up in that accident ourselves as we move up into 12th and into Malmedy, this very tricky and dangerous left-right chicane. And here is a replay of Chris Amon coming through. The left-hander crashes into that Automobili Turismo Esport and he loses his front left, and that is the end of his race. Here is a replay of Ludovico Scarfiotti, who apparently had a problem with his engine, and that's why he ended stopped on the track there. But that's the end of his race as we have a look at Hap Sharp now, who is coming up onto the Camel Straight, loses control of his car, steers wildly left and right, then completely loses it, ends up at the side of the track and is out of the Belgian Grand Prix. So that's another retirement to add to the list as we now take a look at Tony September in the BRP, who also loses actually it's the Scirocco Powell racing car, sorry about that. He also, anyway, Tony September also loses control of his car and ends up at the side of the track and out of the Belgian Grand Prix. Towards a little bit later on in the lap, we have a replay of Tony Mags, who is coming through Stavolo. He crashes into one of the Lotuses, I believe, ends up on the other side of the track without a left wheel. This is a replay of Joe Siffert, who loses control of his ATS, drives it up the dirt mound there and is out of the Grand Prix as well. And then we see Jim Clark coming through Stavolo. He crashes into the Cooper there and both of their races are over and out. So that's how all of that happened. As we now move, we're still on the opening lap. I managed to make a few overtakes as I now managed to pass two cars and went into second position, 10th position as we came through the Mazda King. However, I touched the grass there and nearly lost control of my car completely. Then as we move on to lap 2, I just passed Jack Brabham, who was very, very slow, not quite sure why, as we come through the Mazda King once again, barely keeping the car on the track. Very, very slidey these cars. As we come in towards the source here, Graham Hill lost control of his car, so we move up into 9th as we almost crash into Dan Gurney. Luckily I went a bit wide to avoid that, however that is going to cost me. Later on lap 3, I just about overtake Dan Gurney, now chasing after Bandini. However, Dan Gurney is a little bit faster than me and we drop back down to 9th. But I'm hoping that we can still catch him and go for a pass. Later on lap 3, we do indeed catch up to Dan Gurney and we pass him again for 8th place. And now chasing after Richie Ginster, hopefully we'll catch him. However, not really, because coming into Malmedy, I lose control of my car again as Dan Gurney takes my position away. Then later on lap 3, I once again overtake Dan Gurney and then crash into the rear of Richie Ginster as he was trying to, I don't know, block me, I guess. Lost control of the car, almost killed the engine. However, I'm still alright as we now come to start lap 4. I'm just right behind Richie Ginster. Dan Gurney is behind me. I crash into Ginster, who brakes for no reason at the top of Eau Rouge. We both lose control. Dan Gurney goes ahead. Richie Ginster also passes me. I'm down in 9th now. Jack Brabham's coming up from behind. He passes me and we're down in 10th now. Very, very difficult to control these cars as we see Graham Hill coming through Eau Rouge and he loses control of his car and flies right off the map. A little bit later on through lap 4, as we come through this very long right-hander, I pass Ginster and I think Brabham and we move up into 8th position. Later on I catch up to Gurney as well and we move up into 7th position. Now chasing after Lorenzo Bandini. Hopefully we will be able to catch him as we come through the Mazda King there. Towards the middle part of lap 4, I catch up to Lorenzo Bandini and I pass him without too much of a problem. Now chasing after John Surtees. I'm hoping to catch him as well in about 1 lap's time, hopefully. And I do indeed on lap 5 catch up to Surtees, and we move up into 5th. So we are now in the points, which is very pleasing to me. As we now take a look at a replay of Bruce McLaren coming around to finish lap 5 and post the fastest time of the race. So congratulations to Bruce McLaren. Obviously that's quite a nice thing for him. As we now see a replay of Giancarlo Baghetti, who is having some problems with his suspension. He pulls to the side of the track quite violently, I should say. And that is the end of Baghetti's race as we now come through Lacombe here, chasing after Joe Bonnier. Phil Hill is out of the race and we move up into 3rd position, the highest we've been in a very long time. I'm very happy. As we take a look at Phil Hill, he obviously has a problem with his engine. He has only one. We see smoke coming out of the rear of the car, and that is the end of his race. And now we see a replay of De Beaufort coming through Blanchimont here. He loses control of his Porsche and, well, tries to kind of get back onto the track, but gets stuck instead, and he is out of the race. As we come around to start lap 7, Bruce McLaren is in the pits and out of the race. So is Joe Bonnier, which means we take the lead of the Belgian Grand Prix in 1963. That's absolutely amazing. Hasn't happened. We haven't led a race in a very long time, since the 1961 or 62 United States Grand Prix, I believe. As we take a look at a replay of Bruce McLaren, who loses his brakes coming through Lacombe here, and then we see Joe Bonnier coming into the pits with a gearbox problem. So they both retired. That is how we ended up in the lead of the race, which is absolutely fantastic. Hopefully we can take it all the way to the end. However, not really. As I come through this right-hander, I lose the back runs away from me. I tried to keep it, but I couldn't. I touched the outside of the track. I then tried to veer back onto the track, but that ended up in disaster. As we see a replay now, how I jump over the map and out of the race, unfortunately. What a shame. And we were leading the race as well, and we could have won our first Grand Prix in a very long time. This is not the ideal thing to do, and here we are towards the end of the race. This is the penultimate lap. We see Maurice Trintignant in his car losing control of his car in the same place where I did. He ends up on the embankment there and out of the Grand Prix as well. As we now move on to the last lap, we are looking at the man of the hour, John Surtees, coming around to take the win of the Belgian Grand Prix. Congratulations to John Surtees. Bandini finishes 2nd, Brabham 3rd, Dan Gurney 4th, 5th was Ginter, and Ireland finished in 6th. In all, 10 people finished the race, so that is absolutely fantastic. Trintignant actually did finish the race because he managed to complete 90% of race distance. And here are the retirements. Unfortunately, we number ourselves among them once again. That's been a very long succession of very bad results for Andy Higgs, and I'm personally hoping that things will change very quickly. But anyway, here are the career statistics, and this was Andy's 113th Grand Prix. His best start is from 1st, has 8 pole positions, has set 17 fastest laps. His best finishes in 1st, has completed 73 races, 57 of them in the points, has won 35 Grand Prix, 4 at the Indianapolis 500, 6 in Monaco, has 7 championships under his belt, has scored a total of 388 points, has retired 40 times, has experienced 2,443 out of 3,049 laps, has 6 bronze trophies, 9 silver trophies, 35 gold trophies, and as an extension, 35 podiums. And here is a quick look at the championship standings. We finally have points on the board. Obviously, Surtees takes the lead of the championship with Lorenzo Bandini 2nd, Brabham 3rd. Well, pretty much the same lineup as we saw at the end of the race. Andy Higgs is down in 22nd, and Joe Sifford bringing up the rear of the Drivers' Championship. Now let's take a quick look at the constructor standings, and here Ferrari take the lead obviously from Brabham, who are in second, Owen Racing Organization are third, and British Racing Partnership are sitting nicely in fourth. Our Team Lotus are in sixth, and bringing up the rear of the standings at the moment are Siffert Racing Team. So that was the Belgian Grand Prix. It looked very promising at one point, and then it went very horribly very quickly. Again, these cars are very temperamental with steering inputs. You have to be so gentle with them that it's really a pain to drive. It's not how you would drive them really. Well, you would be quite careful with these because, well, back then you didn't have traction control and stuff like that, but for some reason, as I said at the beginning of the Monaco Grand Prix, at the beginning of the season, these cars are unusually slidey. This is not how physics and cars work. It really feels like these cars are constantly driving on ice, so that's mainly the reason why I lost control so many times in the race, and the reason why I eventually ended up flying off the map. But anyway, that was the Belgian Grand Prix. Our next race is the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort, another circuit I really enjoy, so hopefully things will go a little bit better there, although I'm not sure. I'm actually quite reluctant about the Dutch Grand Prix because of how the cars behave, so it's actually going to be a very difficult race for Andy because of how the cars behave in this season. And I'm starting to repeat myself, so I should probably end the video there. Don't forget to vote for next season's team, link is in the description. I also have a second channel where I am playing all sorts of different games. At the moment I'm doing a playthrough of Diablo 2 and Homefront, so if you're interested in any of those two games, there will be a link in the description to my second channel as well. As of this recording, I have no new information about the stream, so everything I knew I already told you, but I will keep you posted whenever I find out anything new. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, stay sharp.